Healthy plants always begin with healthy soil, but here's the truth most gardeners don't realize. Not all soil amendments actually deliver the nutrients your crops need. For years, compost has been hailed as the ultimate way to recycle kitchen scraps and garden waste. But what if there was a faster, cleaner, and more nutrient-rich alternative? What if instead of waiting months for compost to break down, you could create a powerhouse soil amendment in just weeks that locks in nutrients instead of letting them escape? That's the magic of fermentation, and it's transforming the way smart gardeners feed their soil. Let's be clear. Composting has its place. It reduces waste and eventually creates a material that improves soil texture. But anyone who has maintained a compost pile knows the headaches. So you pile up clippings, kitchen scraps, and leaves only to deal with bad smells, pests, and honestly endless turning just to keep oxygen flowing. Even when conditions are, pretty much perfect, compost takes 6 months to a year before it's actually ready to use. And here's the bigger issue. Composting relies on oxidation, which creates heat. That heat drives nitrogen, one of the most valuable nutrients for plants, right into the air as ammonia gas. That sharp smell you catch when passing a hot compost pile? Well, that's nitrogen literally evaporating away. By the time the compost is finished, a large portion of the original nutrients are just gone. So, while compost does improve soil structure, it doesn't always pack the nutritional punch your plants crave. That's why fermentation changes everything. Fermentation flips the script on decomposition. Instead of using oxygen and heat, fermentation thrives in oxygen-free or anaerobic conditions. Beneficial microorganisms, especially lactic acid bacteria, take over. They produce organic acids that preserve nutrients, suppress harmful pathogens, and transform raw waste into a nutrient-dense material in just 3 to 6 weeks. Fermented grass clippings or kitchen scraps don't look or smell like rotten waste. Instead, they turn golden brown and give off a pleasant sweet and sour aroma. Think pickles or sourdough starter. Unlike compost, which can attract pests, fermented material is just too acidic for pests to tolerate. And most importantly, fermentation really locks in nitrogen and other minerals, keeping them in plant-available forms. When applied to soil, those nutrients are delivered directly where your crops need them. At its core, fermentation is controlled anaerobic decomposition. When you submerge organic matter in water with a microbial starter, the sugars in the plant material feed lactic acid bacteria. These bacteria multiply rapidly, producing acids that lower the pH to around 3.5 to 4.0. In such an acidic environment, harmful microbes die off while beneficial ones thrive. What's left behind is not just preserved nutrients but also living beneficial organisms that continue to work in your soil. They form symbiotic relationships with plant roots, improve nutrient absorption, suppress diseases, and even help build long-term soil fertility. It's like giving your soil both a nutrient boost and a living probiotic treatment. So, how do you start your own fermentation bucket? Well, getting started is surprisingly simple. Here's exactly what you need to do. First, use a 5-gallon food-grade bucket with a tight-fitting lid. To keep oxygen out while allowing gases to escape, fit the lid with an airlock, which you can find in most home brewing supplies, or just run a tube from the lid into a jar of water to create a one-way valve. Next, fill your bucket with about 60% fresh grass clippings or chopped organic matter and 40% water by volume. Be sure to leave about 2 inches of headspace at the top. So, for every gallon of your total mixture, you'll want to add 2 tablespoons of molasses and a 1/4 cup of rice wash water. That's the cloudy water you get after rinsing rice. The molasses, provides sugars for the microbes, while the rice wash introduces naturally occurring beneficial bacteria. Now it's important to keep the bucket between 70 and 85 degrees Fahrenheit. If it's hot summer weather, just store it in the shade. And in cooler seasons, you can expect the process to take a bit longer. Within the first week, you should notice bubbles in the airlock, a good sign the microbes are hard at work. A clean, pickle-like smell means the fermentation is on track. If you detect foul odors, the batch may have been contaminated or the ratios were off, so it's best to start fresh. After 3 to 6 weeks, the bubbling will stop, the clippings will turn golden brown, and the pH should settle between 3.5 and 4.0. At that point, your fermented amendment is ready to use. The best part of fermentation is really its versatility. Once it's ready, you can use the material in several effective ways. For direct soil improvement, just work the fermented material into your beds at about 1 inch per square foot. This improves structure, loosens clay soils, and also boosts water retention in sandy soils. As a top dressing, simply spread it around the base of your plants, but make sure to keep a few inches of distance from the stems to avoid burn. The nutrients will gradually seep into the soil with every watering. For liquid fertilizer, strain the fermented liquid and dilute it with water. The ideal ratio is 1 part fermented liquid to 10 parts water for most plants. For more sensitive crops, dilute further to 1 part liquid to 20 parts water. Pour it onto the soil as a drench, or use it as a foliar spray during cooler hours of the day. This liquid delivers nutrients and living microbes that plants can absorb almost instantly. Once you master fermenting clippings, the possibilities really open wide. Kitchen scraps like fruit peels, vegetable trimmings, coffee grounds, and eggshells, well, they ferment beautifully. Fall leaves, which usually take ages to compost, actually break down quickly in a fermentation bucket. Even weeds pulled from your garden can be fermented safely. The acidic environment just destroys their seeds. You can also tailor ferments to specific plant needs. For example, banana peels with coffee grounds make a potassium-rich mix for flowering crops. Seaweed ferments into a trace mineral booster. Even shredded cardboard and paper can be fermented if balanced with extra nitrogen sources. Fermentation does more than feed your plants in the short term. Over time, it builds stable organic matter in your soil, improves structure, increases water holding capacity, and enhances fertility. The beneficial microbes introduced continue working season after season, creating a thriving underground ecosystem. Another benefit often overlooked is carbon sequestration. You see, the stable compounds formed during fermentation persist in the soil, locking away carbon and supporting climate-friendly gardening practices. With regular applications, your garden becomes more self-sustaining, needing fewer external fertilizers. Composting isn't bad, but fermentation offers something composting simply can't: nutrient preservation and speed. With just a bucket, some clippings, and a little microbial magic, you can turn waste into soil gold in weeks, not months. Your plants will thank you with stronger growth, healthier roots, and bigger harvests. So here's your next step. Don't toss those clippings or scraps into the compost pile just yet. Start a fermentation bucket today and experience the difference for yourself. And if you found this guide useful, don't forget to subscribe to Crop Corner and share this with fellow gardeners who are ready to unlock the true potential of their soil. Together, let's grow healthier, stronger, and more abundant gardens.